Welcome back to GEEKY Reviews. I'm your host, Michael Wilkerson, and this is going to be my review for Season 1, Episode 4 of Supernatural, titled Phantom Traveler. And this episode premiered back on October 4, 2005. It opens with a passenger who is nervous about flying, being possessed by black smoke, seems to be transforming 40 minutes into the flight, and is basically going to the back of the plane to open the hatch, causing the plane to crash. Basically, this was crazy to me, just seeing somebody being possessed, opening a hatch, putting all these people's lives in danger that were probably also scared of flying. This was just kind of a really ballsy move, this whole spirit situation. Dean basically gets a call from Jerry Panawisky, an air traffic controller that John and Dean had previously helped with the poltergeist. I was wondering about this a little bit, like how they really knew each other beyond just the phone call. It felt very coincidental that this guy just randomly called them up, how they get their number. He obviously explains by the end of the episode, after they solve this case and say, well, the passengers, that type of thing, that it was a voicemail that he left from his for his son Dean or whatever, and that's, he left Dean's number with Jerry or whatever, and so that's how he kind of knows it now. But it was kind of convenient, the beginning of it, because I was wondering how they really knew each other with this poltergeist. What happened with this poltergeist? What kind of spirit was it? What kind of ghost was it? Was it both? Was it one or the other? Was it something that was connected to what happened with Mary? Was it something that happened with Jessica? What were the implications of this? And I may be reading too much into it, but you give me that kind of setup, I'm going to have some sort of questions with it. He tells them about the unexplained plane crash. They analyze the cockpit voice recorder and hear EVP saying no survivors, when in reality, 7 of the 100 people actually on board the plane survived, meaning 93 actually died, which is crazy. That's a lot of families that are mourning. That's a lot of people that lost somebody close to them. That's insane. The Winchester brothers interview a survivor, which I go back to from the beginning, that there was this like witness on the plane, witnessing this thing opening the door and all of that, to say, tell them to stop, that kind of thing. He basically interviews them about the strange passenger who opened the door, and then they impersonate Homeland Security agents so that they can examine crash debris and find sulfur on emergency exit door. This was funny to me, that they actually went to a place that Dean knew to get like fake Homeland Security badges made and impersonate these agents or whatever. It's a funny common theme, and I feel like Dean is really trying to get into trouble a lot with the cops a lot this episode, and just, they already had it in like last episode with him impersonating like a park ranger type thing, and maybe in episode 2. Probably the pilot too. Like, it's just a common theme and common characteristic trait that they give Dean, that he's just likes, stealing people's identities and that kind of thing, which is crazy. Trying to work when he's like really trying to help people, but I guess this is the only way he sees fit to help people, which is like breaking the law. Sometimes you have to like break the law to actually make things get better. Like, it's like that whole idea of detox. Like, sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, that type of thing. But I feel like he's just kind of making things worse, especially in the long run for him, when he's like eventually just going to get caught by the cops and getting arrested again. It's kind of crazy. Like, and then it's also kind of convenient that they just let him go at the end of everything. Like, he gets off light compared to a lot of people that would impersonate these types of people. The pilot then, who survived the crash, is nervous about taking up another airplane. This makes sense to me. I mean, if I was, a pilot and I was like having to transport another group of people, like, I would be so scared to even fly again, especially like given that not only is there something on board possessing you, but it caused you to crash your plane. And like your whole, you took a whole, like, I guess, oath or type thing, a promise to get people to like places safely, that kind of thing. Like, so of course you would be like scared if something happened. But he basically is being possessed by the black smoke. He takes up the small plane that crashes 40 minutes into the flight. The Winchester brothers realize a demon is causing these crashes, now going after survivors. It happens with this every 40-minute thing. It's some sort of like holy thing that happens, like with spirits, that type of thing. It's a common thing that always happens with these kind of plane crashes, that every 40 minutes it happens. This was kind of crazy to me, that someone was already being possessed every 40 minutes and causing somebody to crash, that kind of thing. Like, these demons must really hate humanity, that type of thing, which I'm hoping we get more into. It's just kind of fascinating. The only survivor planning to fly is flight attendant Amanda Walker, which she is like ballsy this episode. She like puts her life and her job in danger just by like, trusting these two people that she's never really met before in Sam and Dean. But she also is like she also risked her job when she could literally get fired, that kind of thing, for working with these people. Which I find she's really ballsy for doing that, because she could also put more people's lives in danger and cause them to get killed even more. So it's kind of crazy that she does this, but she also is, I guess, in a way, like I said, ballsy. She really wants to save lives, and this is her job, that kind of thing. So she's willing to do with that whatever it takes. After failing to stop her from getting on the plane, the brothers board the plane themselves despite Dean's fear of flying. It's interesting this episode that Dean is feared of flying, because in the beginning of the episode, it's revealed that he's not really scared of anything, but he is kind of basically sets up that idea that he is eventually going to be afraid of something, which is, of course, flying. And it's interesting this episode that Sam is kind of the one that comforts Dean beyond the previous episodes. It was always like Dean looking after Sam. Now it's like Sam looking after Dean over this, with this fear of flying, which I find interesting. And it's actually a nice little flip flop that they give the brothers to give them some leeway, give them some different distinct personalities, and make it not feel so much of the same or whatever with these character traits. 8 minutes of flight, they're realize the co-pilot is possessed. With Amanda's help, they bind and gag him to, douse him with holy water, which again, this goes back to her being ballsy, helping him with this whole thing, pouring holy water, getting the spirit out, all that kind of thing. But again, it goes back to the idea of like she's willing to do whatever it takes. Same with Sam and Dean. Sam starts an exorcism, but once the demon has been forced out of the co-pilot and assumes its smoke's form, it possesses the plane itself. Before the demon can crash the plane, Sam finishes the exorcism, sends the demons back to hell, and the plane is able to return to the airport, which I really like this whole sequence or whatever. It was really crazy that they did this with a bunch of passengers on board. But trying to get that whole demon out so that they could, land the plane safely made sense to me. And I really like this whole sequence that they had for him. Jerry basically by the end of it thanks Sam and Dean for what they did. Dean asks how they got his number. Jerry explains that John Wester's voicemail says to Sam and Dean for emergencies, which again goes back to the idea that they try to tie up some loose ends between them two. But again, I would have loved to know a little bit more about their past beyond just like, oh yeah, he gave me your number, so now I call you up because you guys, I owe you a favor or whatever for saving my life from this poltergeist and stuff like that. But overall, I would say this episode was okay. I would say I enjoyed the last one a little bit better, had a little more in depth with Lucas and that kind of thing, and Andrea and the sheriff, despite it being like a very predictable villain. This episode, I feel like, while I like the plane sequence or whatever, that was a much more stepped up little action sequence or whatever. Not a lot stood out to me for me. I like the idea that Dean was afraid of going on flights and Sam was the one that actually had to comfort him. But I also feel like there wasn't enough to the backstory of them given between how Jerry and Dean knew each other beyond just from this casual conversation with this poltergeist. I would have loved to have seen what happened with that type of thing, and maybe we'll go more into detail about that a little bit later. But I also like the idea, like the demon and like infecting everybody, from the pilots to this random passenger, that type of thing. I was curious how that was going to tie into maybe Jessica, what happened to Mary, that type of thing. I'm hoping that we maybe see that kind of being possessed, because I saw the black eyes and I was curious. That it looks like it was about what happened with, them. They both had the black eyes. Mary and Jessica had the black eyes. So I was curious. I'm curious to see if that kind of has come back into play later or whatever or not. But let me know what you guys think. What was your favorite part and least favorite part of Supernatural Season 1, Episode 4? And if you enjoyed the review, as always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys next Geeky Reviews video. Peace.